There is a particular kind of calm that exists in you when you fear losing anyone, not coldness, not arrogance, not emotional detachment. It's a quiet steadiness that comes from something much deeper than indifference. A grounded presence that doesn't need to announce itself to feel real. And if people have ever told you that you are too independent, or too emotionally strong, or strangely too okay with letting people go, I want you to hear this clearly from the beginning. This mindset is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-stability. Many people misunderstand you. They assume that not fearing loss means you don't care, that relationships are disposable to you, that attachment comes easily and leaves just as easily. But psychologically, the truth is almost the opposite. You often care deeply, sometimes more deeply than those who cling. You simply refuse to abandon yourself to keep someone else. As a psychologist, I've noticed a consistent pattern in people like you. When you say, I love deeply, but I don't cling, what you're really saying is, I've learned how to survive emotional uncertainty without collapsing. And that ability doesn't come from being heartless. It comes from emotional maturity. Fear of loss is not love. It is attachment mixed with insecurity. Love says, I choose you. Fear says, I need you to stay so I can feel okay. You have separated these two things inside yourself. You understand that connection is a choice, not a lifeline. That staying should come from desire, not desperation. And because of that, the idea of loss no longer controls you. This doesn't mean you expect abandonment. It means you are no longer ruled by the possibility of it. At the core of your psychology is internal security. You've developed a sense of self that doesn't depend on who stays, who leaves, or who validates you. Your identity isn't built on constant reassurance or emotional approval. It's built inwardly, quietly, over time. But you didn't start this way. Often, people who don't fear loss once feared it intensely. You may remember that version of yourself, the one who loved too hard, overgave, overattached, stayed too long in situations that drained you because the thought of being alone felt unbearable. You tolerated uncertainty because certainty felt like survival. And then something shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, through exhaustion, through disappointment, through moments where you realized that no matter how much you gave, you were still shrinking. And eventually, a realization formed inside you, not bitter, not angry, but clear. Abandonment hurts, but self-abandonment hurts more. That realization changes everything. Psychologically, you learned emotional self-containment. You learned how to hold your emotions without immediately outsourcing regulation to someone else. When sadness arises, you don't panic. When someone pulls away, you don't chase. When uncertainty appears, you don't collapse into anxiety. You feel the pain, but you don't let it erase you. This is often mistaken for emotional coldness, but it's actually emotional integration. Your nervous system has learned that loss is survivable, that grief is painful but not fatal, that loneliness is uncomfortable but not tiredness-truing. And once your body learns that, fear loosens its grip. This creates a profound inner freedom. When you are no longer afraid of losing people, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop silencing your needs just to maintain harmony. You stop tolerating emotional neglect just to keep a connection alive. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself too. And that self-respect quietly reshapes every relationship you enter. You don't cling, you don't control, you don't manipulate. You don't beg to be chosen. You show up honestly, fully, and allow others to meet you there or not. If someone stays, it's mutual. If someone leaves, it's information, not devastation. This mindset is closely tied to secure attachment or to people who have consciously worked toward it. Securely grounded individuals understand that relationships enrich life, but they do not define existence. You can bond deeply without losing autonomy. You can love fully without abandoning boundaries. This doesn't mean you don't grieve loss. You do, sometimes intensely. But your grief is clean. It moves through you instead of trapping you. You don't confuse pain with proof that you are unlovable. You don't turn endings into personal verdicts about your worth. Another core aspect of your psychology is acceptance of impermanence. You understand, sometimes intuitively, sometimes painfully, that nothing in life is guaranteed. People change, paths diverge, seasons end. This awareness doesn't make you detached. It makes you present. You don't take connection for granted, but you also don't try to freeze it in time. You allow relationships to breathe, to evolve, to end when they must, without gripping them out of fear. Your emotional posture is grounded. You enjoy people while they are there. You invest honestly. You don't withhold love out of self-protection. But you also don't build your entire emotional home inside another person. Your home is within yourself. Many people fear loss because they equate it with meaninglessness. If someone leaves, they assume it means they weren't enough. You understand a deeper psychological truth. Not everything that ends was a failure. Some connections complete their purpose. This understanding reduces anxiety, and it increases emotional dignity. It also makes you difficult to manipulate. You cannot easily control someone who isn't terrified of being left. Emotional threats lose their power. Silent treatments don't work. Withdrawal doesn't induce panic. This can unsettle people who are used to being needed rather than chosen. And you may have noticed this. Some people admire your strength. Others misunderstand it. They may accuse you of being distant when you are simply self-anchored. They may say you move on too easily, when in reality you process fully and refuse to stay stuck. They may mistake your peace for indifference because they don't recognize emotional stability when they see it. But emotional stability doesn't look dramatic. It looks quiet. It looks like calm breathing after disappointment, like grounded silence instead of reactive chaos, like knowing you'll be okay even if someone walks away. There is also deep healing in this psychology. When you no longer fear losing others, you stop chasing versions of love that require you to shrink. You stop proving your worth through endurance. You stop confusing suffering with devotion. You begin choosing relationships that feel reciprocal, not anxiety-driven. If you've reached this place, it's because you've done emotional work, consciously or unconsciously. You've sat with loneliness. You've survived endings. You've rebuilt yourself more than once. And through that process, you learned something essential. You are capable of holding your own life. That knowledge is transformative. It doesn't make you immune to heartbreak. It makes you resilient to it. You still love deeply. You still attach meaningfully. You still feel loss when it happens. But underneath all of that is a quiet confidence that says, I will grieve, and I will continue. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional strength. I want to speak directly to you now, if this resonates. Not fearing loss does not mean you don't value people. It means you value yourself enough to survive change. It means you trust your ability to rebuild. It means you understand that your life does not end when a chapter closes. You are not heartless. You are not cold. You are not detached. You are integrated. You have learned that love is not possession, that connection is not captivity, that staying should never require self-betrayal. You allow people to come into your life freely, and you allow them to leave without destroying your sense of self. That doesn't make you unloving. It makes you emotionally sovereign, and there is peace in that sovereignty. It allows you to love without fear, to connect without desperation, to stay present instead of hypervigilant, to enjoy people without gripping them too tightly. This is one of the healthiest emotional positions a person can hold. So if you don't fear losing anyone, understand this. It doesn't mean you expect abandonment. It means you trust yourself enough to survive it. You know that your worth is not negotiated by who stays, that your identity does not dissolve when someone leaves. You don't cling because you don't need to. You don't chase because you don't collapse. You don't beg because you don't abandon yourself. And that quiet confidence, that calm center, is not accidental. It is the result of growth, reflection, and emotional courage. Let others misunderstand if they must. You know the truth. You are not afraid of losing anyone because you have already found yourself